Welcome to KRA's The Hub, the official podcast of KRA Corporation. And now get ready to hear workforce topics and trends you need to know on the go.
All right. Well, welcome back to KRA's The Hub podcast. We are excited for today's series of episodes. Myself and many of my KRA colleagues were at the recent Raising the Bar conference in Maryland. And just want to thank the Maryland Workforce Association for putting on this conference. It was a workforce conference that featured over 1,000 guests, 1,000 members, workforce development professionals, leaders, folks that work on the front lines. We also had the opportunity to meet many great vendors and organizations that are actually supporting the workforce development industry. I was joined by a series of episode recordings with my colleague, Derek Colbert. Derek, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Jonathan. It's good to be back with you.
You as well. And Derek, we had the opportunity to talk with a lot of individuals. It ranged from folks that are working on the front lines, leaders of organizations, vendors that are providing services within workforce development. As we were a part of that, as you think back to the experience that we had there, what are some of the things that you think that our audience will be able to glean from these episodes?
Great question. As I reflect on the Raising the Bar workforce development conference, and just the series of folks that we had the opportunity to interview, I really feel like the audience truly going to enjoy this podcast series right here, because we heard from everyone that's offering services for returning citizens, a very robust conversation around that. The young lady that's a former KRA employee that's now working for employee Prince George's County that's doing some excellent work within the youth development space. Our former colleague John Hattery that's doing some dynamic work for Workforce Montgomery as well, and others as well, such as Joseph Seymour, Mr. Walter Simmons, that really spoke about the collective impact that we need to have in workforce development. But for me, I'm gonna be a little bit biased. This for me, it was awesome to really hear from Mr. Norton Atterbury, the founder and CEO here of KRA Corporation, and just to hear his journey, just to hear his insight on the state of workforce development, not only in the state of Maryland, but also this workforce development from a national perspective as well. So I really feel like the listening audience truly going to have an opportunity to hear from some dynamic individuals that's our trailblazers within the workforce development space. But please, I don't want to leave out, and I start calling names, I'm going to miss folks, but I don't want to leave out the conversation around the wholeness and the wellness of women in the workforce development space here as well. So this for the listening audience, I truly want you guys to sit back and just enjoy the ride that we're going to take you on as it relates to this particular podcast right here, because not for the sake of repeating myself, but it was some very dynamic conversations and some very robust conversations that came from out of this podcast series right here. So we have something for everyone. If you are a woman in workforce development, we have something for you. If you are an inspiring CEO in workforce development, we have something for you. If you are a workforce development professional that just starting your journey in workforce development, we have something for you. If you are trying to figure out how KRA have been able to grow leaders within the workforce development space, we have something for you as well. So we have something for everyone as it relates to your journey here in workforce development. And you are a business owner that's looking to hire workforce development individuals or our job seekers, we have something for you as well. So here again, we have a very robust conversation in from all different angles as it relates to workforce development and community economic development here. So that would be my takeaway.
Well, I appreciate that, Derek. And I believe as well that our audience is going to enjoy these episodes. And again, we want to highlight that this is a series. So if you're catching us part 2 or part 3 of this series, make sure you go back and listen to some of the other episodes. But with that being said, at this time, we will transition to our episodes that we recorded at Raising the Bar in Maryland.
All right. Well, welcome back to KRA's The Hub podcast. We're having on-site opportunity here to speak with many influential leaders and frontline staff within workforce development here at Maryland's Raising the Bar Conference here in Maryland. We're having a great time, and today we're joined by David Barch of NAHDAP. David, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Great to be at Raising the Bar, but also great to be part of this podcast.
Thank you. And I'm also joined by my colleague and co-host, Derek Colbert of KRA.
Thank you, Jonathan. Pleasure to be with you this afternoon, David, as well.
So, David, you are with NAHDAP. How about you open up with sharing with our audience today what you do and what does NAHDAP do as an organization as well within workforce development?
Happy to do that. NAHDAP is the National Association of Workforce Development Professionals. Much too long of a title to use every day, so NAHDAP seems to be the acronym that most everyone uses. We are an organization, a member organization, and our primary goal is to provide professional development for those in workforce professionals in the field. We get asked a lot, who is a workforce development professional? Our simple answer is anyone who's working with job seekers and or business and industry. So it could be someone in a community college, a private nonprofit, city, counties. Of course, the largest funding stream, the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. We have many members who are under that umbrella. So we welcome everyone who's in the workforce world to be part of NAHDAP. And we do have different ways that we do provide professional development. Some is free, some you pay for. We do at least one free 30 minutes of excellence every month. Anyone can register for that, and it'll be 30 minutes on something that's relevant in the workforce world. We have an annual conference every year. We have a youth symposium every year where all the workshops are on serving at-risk youth, typically ages 16 through 24. This year we'll be in Phoenix in November. Next year our annual conference will be in May in Virginia Beach. This year we had 1,900 people at our annual conference. So we're just so excited of the growth that we have from workforce development professionals across the country. Virgin Islands, Guam. We have a member now in Mexico, a few in Canada. So we're always, I'm on the road a lot exhibiting. We take the feedback that we get from the people that we talk to and we try to apply that. We did a survey we do every year. What training do you need? That's what we base our training guides on. Last month we had a business services academy, the first in-person event for business services that we've had since COVID. So we listen to our members, to our non-members, because we want to be relevant to the work you're doing. Workforce development gets in your blood for sure. I've been in this business about 23 years, but it's not easy. It's hard to make the connections with job seekers, get them the training they need, get them employed. That's a big responsibility. You know, if you're under federal programs, you have performance measures to meet, you have expenditures that you have to meet. So, you know, when you hear all of the responsibility that you have, can be overwhelming. Working with business and industry as Derek does, that takes a skill set, but then you see the rewards, and that makes it all worthwhile.
Thank you for that, David. You may mention that you've been in the workforce development industry for 23 years. Can you kind of walk us through exactly some of the lessons that you have learned over your career journey, but also what has been some of the best practices that you have incorporated throughout your career as well?
Great question. When I first started in 2001, WIA was the federal legislation at the time, but my first assignment was to work with 200 JTPA files that had been inactive for 2 years. So, that was a learning curve. But what I've seen through my years of experience is, number one, you need to do what you say you're going to do for your customers. You have to build a relationship. You have to earn their trust. It doesn't come automatically. Many of the people that we've served have been lied to and let down all their lives. So, number one, you have to earn their trust, and you have to do what you say you're going to do. I think once you've learned and make that, just incorporate that into how you serve your customers, then you need to be relevant in the community. Workforce, it's very unusual in that if you ask people, hey, do you know in our community where the job center is, to where you go get training and find employment? No. If you ask people, do you know where the unemployment center is? Oh yeah, my uncle went there last week when he got laid off. We don't want to be that, but that's kind of the label that the workforce system has. So I knew one of my primary roles was to go out in the community. With WIOA, we have, quote, mandated partners. Those partners are great, but they're not your only resources. You need to be looking at nonprofits, churches, food banks, those individuals that are providing services that maybe you can't. And it takes building a relationship in the community no different than building a relationship with your individual customer. If that means being set up at the Housing Authority at 7 o'clock on Tuesday night, you're there Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. You have to build those relationships. And with your partners, it's almost like a marriage. Again, you have to say what you're going to do, and you have to do what you say you're going to do. It's respect, it's a relationship, and kind of a sidetrack, but partnering to partner for no reason, what's the point? Mm-hmm. Partnerships need to be relevant, they need to be meaningful, but again, you have to earn the respect of your partners and be a resource for your partners to be effective.
Thank you for that. You said something in your remarks that I just want to highlight a little bit more. You said, don't partner just to be partnering. Can you kind of elaborate on that just a little bit more for the listening audience, please?
There's been different times in my career that someone will come in and say, hey, let's partner. And in the conversation, what you learn is that they want you to serve all of their people in a particular training course. You can't always do that. If it's not an in-demand occupation, then besides the whole process of eligibility, but if that isn't a demand occupation that you can actually serve those individuals, then there's no use in forming a partnership. You need to be, just say the truth. Mm-hmm. And the truth sometimes means this isn't a partnership that will work. It's on end in divorce like a bad marriage. So just be upfront, and do what you can do. But if you can't do something, then why partner? Why have an MOU or something that there's no outcomes? Mm-hmm. There's no outcomes that can be gained by either partner.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. 23 years within the workforce development industry. What advice would you give to the younger generation that's coming into workforce development, such as individual that just started a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? What advice would you give to them on how to make sure that they position themselves to be lifelong workforce development professionals?
I think my number one piece of advice would be understanding that workforce is constantly changing. So you have to be constantly learning in order to be effective. Skill sets change, educational levels change, and we have to understand that business and industry is our customer.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Business and industry is our customer. Yes, our success, we're so proud when we see a job seeker get the skills to get a job, but if the employer isn't there, there's no jobs to get. So, an effective program will be based on the local needs or regional needs of business and industry. Most of the people that we serve can't relocate to a different state or a different city when they get training. So we're training them to meet our local employers' needs. But if you're never at the table with those local employers, how are you relevant? How are your programs relevant? So I think, number one, be open to change and take every opportunity you can to get professional development. And one of the questions that I get from people is, but how do I know my employer's going to support my professional development? Well, number one, have the conversation with them. But number two, if it means you having to spend some of your own money to get training, you're going to be better at what you do. But we have to learn, we have to grow, because a business and industry's needs one day can change overnight. Your local employers, their demand skills can change overnight. You lose employers. You gain employers. It's never the same. So I think being open to change is probably the most necessary skill that I see to be successful, and a genuine concern for people.
That's great. Now, David, we're here at a conference here at Raising the Bar, and I love going to conferences because there's always a perspective on the present, but also the future. And we hear conversations about innovation, technology, AI, all of the things that are here now but are advancing in the future. And I know in your role, you oversee as the Director of Vendor Relations and Special Projects. You see a lot as well that's in the marketplace and within this industry. What is on your radar when it pertains to the future and some of the trends that we're seeing in workforce development? What are some of the things that you're working on in relation to the work that you do in that area?
I think everyone would agree. We've seen more change in the definition of work in the last 4 years than probably the previous 200 years, or how many years of us being in existence as a nation. I think one thing that we've learned from this, I know one of the state that I worked in when I was working with WIA, then WIOA, we weren't allowed by the state to use social media. Now it's a must. How do you serve at-risk youth if you don't have a social media presence? I mean, we have to communicate with our customers in the scenario that they want to be communicated with. That includes cell phones and texting. So we've kind of been forced to move out of maybe a rut that we had been in for years and years and years. You have to be where the people are. They're not coming to you. So we have to be flexible. I think AI is probably the biggest transformation that is and will be coming in our industry. And I think we're probably at the level of different states deciding what kind of policies do we need? How are we going to make this an important tool? I certainly don't know a lot about AI, but We know that you can have bad information and bad intelligence, or you can have good. So there's a lot of decisions that's going to have to be made at the state and local areas of how they're going to incorporate this into their programs. And by the way, it was our #1 request for training this year when we did our survey. So that's really on everyone's radar. And I think having the technology to work at different locations is very important, because, you have winners and losers with funding, but I think we're all having to learn to do more with less, and technology is one way to do it. And you may not have an office that you're going to be at 5 days a week. You may be at a library one day, a church one day. I mean, we have to be portable and flexible, and learning and using technology makes that a possibility.
That's great. As we are today, we're outside of the studio.
Absolutely.
We're at a conference doing a
Right.
podcast here. And so
Yes.
things are constantly evolving and changing. And well, David, I want to thank you for joining us here today. Our partnership, KRA, with NAHDAP as an organization has been strong for many years. Even recently, our leadership team within KRA went through the CWDP certification and training. Derek and I were also here last month for the Business Services Academy, and so we've been partnered together and been a part of much of the training and the development that NAHDAP has provided. So thank you for that support and that relationship over the years. It's been valuable.
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. But I can truly say KRA is a role model for making sure that your leaders have the training, the tools they need to do their job. You're an important part of our organization. I love exhibiting. I know I'll be seeing KRA out there, and you really are a role model for professional development and advancing the skill set of your leaders.
Thank you. And let's do this again sometime.
Let's do it.
Thank you, David.
Thank
you,
y'all.
Derek. We're excited and joined by Cara Fritz of Frederick County Workforce Services. She is the manager of youth programs and talent development pipeline. Welcome.
Thank you.
And I'm also joined by my co-host today, Derek Colbert, my colleague here at KRA.
Wonderful to be with you this afternoon.
So, Cara, we want you to share with us a little bit about your career journey in workforce development, and how has your experience been shaped from where you started to where you are today?
So I kind of fell into workforce development accidentally. I've had a career that has focused on youth development with a good bit of time in some faith-based youth development, working for a nonprofit that does child sponsorship, so education and healthcare with children in Uganda, and was moving to Frederick and needed to find a new job. So I went to Indeed and I typed in youth and Frederick in the search bar and kind of landed accidentally with an opportunity. I'm doing a summer employment program for youth. And that was my introduction to workforce development. I really didn't know what it was before that, but I knew that I was passionate about working with young people and helping them figure out who they are and what they want to be and what resources they need to get to whatever their end goal is. And that's been a theme through my professional journey, is how do I help young people figure out that pathway? And so wound up doing a summer employment program, working with young adults, mostly high school students, and just giving them that introduction to work and seeing that empowerment and that joy and that purpose that was developed over just a short, 6-7 week long summer program. I kind of looked around and said, I like this workforce development thing, and I think I'll stick around. And so that led to my current position, which is leading our team of professionals that are working with youth and young adults in our community. So doing our WIOA programs for youth and young adults with barriers to employment, as well as running some things that are specific to our county government in partnership with nonprofits and our libraries and the schools. And then a new task and challenge, opportunity has been the blueprint for Maryland's future and helping to lead our local efforts for providing career counseling for our youth and young adults.
Thank you for that. It appears that you are passionate about working with young people. And a lot of times, individuals run away from young folks. Mm-hmm. Can you really elaborate on what has been your success around working with young people? And when individuals say, well, young people don't want to work, they are hard to deal with, and things like that as well, can you, for the listening audience, can you really share your success around working with young people?
So I think one thing that has made me successful is that I see the unique value in each individual young person and try to understand what it is that motivates them, what it is that makes them tick, and then where do they want to be and how do we create opportunities to get to where they want to be, right? Valuing where they want to be as each individual has a goal, right? And where they want to be might not make sense to me. I might not want to be an entrepreneur. I might not want to be a video game developer. But just because it's not what I want to do or what my parents have done or what other people are doing doesn't mean that that young person's dream isn't valuable, right? So I think valuing them, supporting their dreams, and then saying, we've got a lot of opportunity here. They've got a lot of life in front of them. So how do we give you the skills right now, take advantage of whatever it is that motivates you, and use that to help get you to a place where you're going to be successful.
So it sounds like you take the youth development approach around working with young folks. And something that you said made me think about the word adultism, in youth development work. And a lot of times adults feel like we know the best thing as it relates to our children, the young people that we service and things like that as well. What has been the level of success when you think about the young folks that you have been able to service throughout your career? Mm-hmm. How have you been able to help young people understand that they don't have to take the traditional path of workforce development, but they can be creative in making sure that they achieve their goals of economic stability, not only for themselves, but also for their family as well?
I think that part of that is developing a culture where it's okay for there to be multiple pathways to success, right? So that is building and instilling in my team that while we might have processes and procedures, we might have expectations, and we might have legal things, legal goals that we have to meet, costs or activities that are allowable or not, we need to have some creativity in the way that we deliver those services, right? We need to meet our people where they are, figure out what motivates them uniquely, and then get them there, right? And then we see success when someone gets a job, a full-time job, and that they can afford an apartment, that they can afford childcare for their children, that they can buy that car, that they can get to college, right? We see success in those outcomes because we've been able to be flexible and creative in meeting the needs of the young people that we're serving.
I think that's a really relevant topic when it comes to youth. I hear it all the time, especially when you talk about Gen Z. I think that's the generation that the youth are in now, engaging, connecting with them. What would you say are some of the keys to really getting past the barriers to connecting with the Gen Z generation and keeping them engaged through that process?
I think you have to be willing to do things differently and to do things that don't make sense to our way of thinking or our past ways of thinking. I think about a partnership that we did with our libraries, and all of their young people, the libraries were seeing great engagement in using the Discord platform to connect with young people in our community. So we started hopping on Discord to do job readiness conversations, right? We would just have staff that were there and available when the library staff already had youth in their little chat room. So I think being willing to show up where they are gathering, not expecting them to come to where traditionally or historically youth have been, but figuring out where are they now and what are the ways to meet them in their spaces and have conversations about what they're interested in, and then how do we connect those things to work, right? Am I talking about video games? Am I talking about TikTok? How do I connect those topics from those places where they are and things that they're interested in into those work skills and preparing them for the future?
That's great. I think everybody wants to be a social media influencer on TikTok and make
Yes.
millions of dollars right away. And part of the work you do is probably grounding the youth that you work with in the reality of what the work world looks like. What are the steps? What is that journey? And we talked earlier about the development of your career and how you got started, where you are today. How would you say that your career journey has helped influence how you engage with youth and how you translate that to, again, the Gen Z generation that you're working with? How have you been able to incorporate that into the work that you do?
Yeah, so I think I started doing a lot of direct service provision, so interacting with the youth, learning to ask them questions to kind of understand who they are and what they're doing and what motivates them. And as I've moved away from that frontline work, right, still thinking about who am I serving, what's their motivation, what are all of the other things in life that they're thinking about that aren't work, that impact their ability to think about that career progression. And so I think that being curious all along has been a thread in my journey, right? Curious about the young people that I'm working with and what excites them, what scares them about work, what they understand, what they don't understand. And that curiosity, right, continues as a theme in my professional journey too, right? I'm curious about best practices, new ways to do things, pushing me to seek new educational opportunities. I'm currently working on a master's in public administration to make me a sharper, better professional so that I can continue to help the people that I'm serving be better as well.
When I think about your career journey, and in particular working with young people, for the listening audience, because we all know, being workforce development professionals, that sometimes we have challenges with our young people, right? So can you give us some of the challenges that you have faced working with young people and some of the ways that you have overcame some of them challenges as well?
One challenge that comes to mind really quickly is how do we deal with failure? And how do we have a mindset or how do we help our young people develop a growth mindset, right? So often our young people these days want quick successes, and if it doesn't work right away, then I'm giving up, or it's not for me, I'm not good at this, right? So I think we have to work really hard to help them understand that when something is difficult, when I don't do something right, when I fail, that's an opportunity to learn and grow, right? To stop and step back and say, okay, what were our expectations? What did we think was going to happen? What actually happened? How is this different? And then how can I behave in a different way next time? How do I continue to be motivated towards my goal and learn that failure is an opportunity for me to get better? It's not a place where I stop moving.
Great, great, great. In closing, if you had to give a message to our listening audience, what would that message be?
To stay curious. Be curious about the world around you. Be curious about new ways of doing things. Curious about why things are the way they are. And then how can I do something to make it be better or be what I think the world around me should be.
Well, again, want to thank you, Cara, again, for your time today. It was great to connect with you and hear about the work that you're doing and continue that work. And we look forward to connecting again in the future and hearing how that work is translating with the youth and the organization that you're leading. So thank you for joining us today on The Hub.
Thank you very much for having me.
And enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you, Derek.
Thank you for listening to KRA's The Hub. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. To learn more about KRA Corporation, visit www.kra.com. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll be back soon with a new episode.